Okay, today's project is going to build custom gable. He wants to use this rough sawn lumber, Doug fir. Not sure where they got it, probably Ganal lumber. But he wants it 7 inches wide here. So we got a beam that's a 4x10, so it's a couple inches big. I'll have to cut it a little bit. But he wants 3x5s here. And so I've just rough cut everything to kind of fit behind the template, as you can see. But customer expressed wanting to have some sort of detail or kind of show some cool joint or something where all this stuff comes together right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a mock-up with some 3/4 plywood, come up with a couple different designs, and see where this goes. All right, so after about 20 minutes of fighting these, finally got them out. Now I just got to go get a rasp so that I can clean up all these rough edges, smooth it all out, smooth out these rough edges. And then my next step will be routing this out, this beam, so that these will basically saddle that beam. All right, here's the mock-up that I did for the customer for this custom gable. So this would be the horizontal beam and the bottom, which is that long beam there. And then these are the two 45-degree angle beams, and then obviously the vertical one. But customer wanted me to do something different other than just kind of joining them all together. He wanted the joint to be noticeable so that when they stained it, it'll pop. And then so I did this, and then I'm gonna add some dowels, probably one there, one there, one there, and one there for aesthetics. Obviously, you don't really need them, but it's more for looks. So anyways, this is what I'm gonna try to execute. So I cut this jig on my CNC, and it's basically just a right triangle. It's 10 inches long there, 5 inches deep. And this is where I want my two 45-degree angle pieces to come together and saddle this long beam. So now I'm going to set this jig up to where this is flush with the top of the beam, and then my centers will line up with my center line, and then I'll go ahead and route out 3/4 of an inch of wood in there with a flush bit. next step is actually one of the more critical ones of the whole project. I got this V routed out, nice and clean. I got to clean up a little bit of edges, not a big deal. But when I do the V on the other side, so this is the V that's here now. When I do it on this side, I have to make sure that it's exactly parallel, so that when these pieces saddle over it, you won't have a little gap on one side or the other. So I got to use my speed square. Go ahead and put some lines across. There's my center line. The center line is what I gauged this first triangle off of. So better soft. Okay, it's the beginning of the joint. So now I'll start laying it up. All right, my next step is to get this vertical piece, to get my last piece together before I start working on the finishing touches. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna see that flat just like that. I basically have to drop that down to be flush with this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this much of it out up to that line and that far back. But if you notice, that's not square, so my cuts on the back side have to look like that. So I'll just do that with a regular handsaw and then clean it up with a rasp and a chisel. Here's my vertical piece. So I did this for my joint. This is what's going to be visible, the cosmetic side, and then this will be the structural side. So it basically is going to go in there like that, but I still have to notch this out for this to drop down in flush. So that's my next step. Okay, so the way I gauge the depth, I shot for about 3/4, but what I'll ultimately do is set this up, my tri-square, so that I can have it ready for my depth as I start routing into this piece. Then I'll just use this to keep judging for my depth. And then to set my depth, I made my mark there with my tri-square that I just set off of the other piece. And so what I do now is I set the router on the template and I adjust it right there. Okay, here I am. Got this piece all notched in. So right here. So now that I've got everything fitting, I'm gonna go ahead and lay out a couple of dowels somewhere in this area. One here, and I'm gonna do one up here and one up here, just to add a little more detail. And then once I get that, I'll start gluing everything in. Okay, did a dry run. Gonna go ahead and glue it together. So I'm starting off using this Tight Bond exterior glue or outdoor glue, ultimate wood glue. Okay, waterproof. So here we go. Okay, well, I forgot to turn the camera on, so here is it all glued up. I got exterior glue and all the seams. I used the dowels. Actually, it's helping me out a lot to have the dowels because I can put that clamp on right here to pull the seam from these two pieces tighter. And then this clamp obviously is just pulling this piece down. So you can see the seams are pretty tight. So if you have any ideas on how I could do this better, please leave a comment, make a suggestion, or if you have any questions, comment. So I'll wait for this all to dry up, and then I'll use my track saw to cut it to the template, and then I'll be ready for install. Okay, here's the template I started with. So I went ahead and put that on top of this whole thing and gave myself marks where it needs to be cut to fit into the roof line of the house. So now I will set up my track saw and start cutting. Okay, here's the finished product before install.